Hey there, Adam Hedley here, coming from my studio in Bristol, England. I'm going to be answering some questions about my forthcoming exhibition, Unfamiliar Windows, at Galleri Urbane. Yeah, so the area that my studio is in is a pretty multicultural, diverse neighbourhood, and there's a really great world food shop that serves everything from, all over. But it has a great deli counter which serves fresh dal and samosas, so I get those every day. So I keep a pretty consistent studio practice, which is predominantly painting in the studio, painting canvases. But then outside of the studio, I like to do a bit of drawing, make watercolors, and sort of do things that are portable that I can easily carry around in my bag or in my pocket. Another activity that's really important to me is the kind of commute to the studio. So I live in a different neighbourhood to my studio. It's about 5 kilometres across the city, and it passes through various different spaces, so kind of residential spaces and parks, and there's kind of a woodland route you can take, a walk over a hill, and kind of areas of kind of abandonment and sort of industry, and I really enjoy that kind of meandering route through all of this different terrain. You can kind of take a different route each day, so I'm kind of always discovering these things that are kind of unseen and that go unnoticed normally. And I'm kind of moving in an opposite kind of trajectory to most of the people in the city who are commuting to the centre. So I've kind of always had an interest in kind of the history of walking and these kind of more anthropological studies of humans and their experience of landscape. And the idea of the derive and psychogeography and our kind of whole exploration of these kind of in-between spaces and areas that people don't generally kind of venture to, certainly not in kind of any touristic way. And then these kind of things are at times kind of opportunities for some influence that might be used in a painting. Maybe I'll kind of make a sketch along the way, or take some photos, or take a video, or maybe even note down the name of a place or a street, and then that is something that I kind of look up and research and see, what's happened to that place kind of through history, or see, has it kind of had any significant change, or is it due to be developed and changed into something else in the future? And so these are all kind of interesting threads of my walk that, I think that they are kind of indirectly linked to my painting. There's also quite a kind of meditative way about them, where I'm kind of perhaps not really seeking anything. I'm just trying to, kind of let things reveal themselves to me, much in the way that a painting kind of reveals itself as I go through the process of laying down colour. I think the types of landscapes that I incorporate in my work really depend on where I am kind of placed at that time. Whilst I'm probably more drawn to natural landscape, as many people living in cities are, I find them to have kind of more opportunity for abstraction and variation, and kind of less inclined to use things that are kind of structurally precise, such as sort of urban landscapes, although I do quite like that kind of intersection between the two of them. And I guess kind of going back to where I am physically or geographically, that's an important thing. I think the work has to come from my personal place in the world. And so work kind of varies depending on whether I have a studio at the current time, or whether I'm working from home, or whether I'm working from images on the internet or from life out in the environment. I often think back to this book called Journey Around My Room, and it's something that I read perhaps when I didn't have a studio, kind of going back quite a while ago, and I was thinking I find it very difficult to kind of work with this interior space. What I want are sort of journeys and travel and to discover these kind of new things. And the book's basically about a guy who's under house arrest in Italy. He ends up writing a sort of travelogue of his house and kind of experiencing different areas of the room. So it kind of was a useful sort of reminder that you can find inspiration closer than you think. You don't need to kind of travel out into these kind of natural landscapes or traverse the world to find inspiration. Yeah, so the idea of the window came about, I think, just kind of during journeys of the city, kind of to and from the studio, just observations, which are very kind of common, kind of looking into buildings and commercial spaces and shops and things like that. And then at the same time, I was having a conversation with a friend in the studio, and we were kind of thinking about the human relationship to my paintings, from kind of the small size to the larger scale. And it kind of came up that these small paintings felt like kind of windows or viewfinders toward a kind of distant environment, something that kind of resembled a landscape, perhaps viewed from an interior, and yet it wasn't kind of quite possible to perceive what that thing was by the kind of culmination of different marks and kind of layered imagery and kind of subjectivity. And then kind of moving from there to the larger canvases, they felt much more experiential, as though you'd kind of left from that interior space and you'd kind of moved toward that thing in the distance, and then you've actually entered it. So it's kind of much more relatable on a sort of a human scale. Everything feels a bit more tangible, and that you're actually placed within that environment. And then along with that, I guess I was kind of thinking about the windows more as something that's perhaps more kind of metaphorical. So sort of the idea of the interior space, kind of gazing out at a world of sort of opportunity and the chance of discovery, while remaining somewhere that's maybe quite sort of sort of a space of solitude. It's maybe a space of sort of self-consciousness. And then on the other hand, this kind of gazing in through the window into the unknown, into a space that's not yours. And then alongside that, this kind of dual image of looking in and through, and then a reflection of yourself kind of coming outward, showing the environment that you're currently in. Yeah, definitely. There is a sort of fine line between balancing this intention and accident. And it's kind of a process that I go through with every canvas. And it's why I tend to work on multiple pieces at the same time. So a whole series of small canvases, a whole series of kind of mid-range, and a series of larger canvases, just so I can give each one its own kind of time to develop and form, and give myself the time to kind of look back and reflect on things as they change. And often kind of working across different scales, different pieces. Ideas come and form quite quickly. There's a lot of new discovery taking place, so things are moving and shifting very quickly. And it often might be that, you know, I'll put something in away for weeks or months, and only kind of return to it when I see that other works are kind of drawing some comparisons or some direct links, or kind of bringing things all together. You know, so I think I probably have kind of less emphasis on completing one painting on its own, and the point at which I kind of discover or realize that a painting is complete is when I see that it kind of fits within a whole set of other works.